The drivers have battled the elements as well as each other to bring them to this, the final races of the 2013 H1 Unlimited season. 3 wins for Jimmy Shane and 2 for Steve David see us at the final stop of the tour. Only one driver walks away with the title of national champion. The ultimate in H1 Unlimited continues next. And we welcome you to San Diego, California, the last stop of the 2013 H1 Unlimited Tour. I'm Rich Hollenberg, joined by my broadcast partner, Steve Montgomery. And Steve, with the national points race the closest we've seen in the sport, 2 contenders stand alone, young gun Jimmy Shane and veteran Steve David, who will turn the beauty of Mission Bay into their battleground, not only for the Bill Munsey Cup, but for the title of national champion. Let's take a look at the national high points currently coming into this weekend. Steve David is atop the leaderboard with only 43 points separating first and second place.
Heat 2A will be a 3-boat race. David Warren in the 100 Leland Unlimited will not start. We do have 3 boats on the water. We are looking at Steve David in the Oh Boy Oberto, the orange boat. Out ahead of the field right now is J. Michael Kelly in the 37 Beacon Plumbing. We have not started the race yet. And Jimmy Shane looks like he's going to have to go to the outside. That's going to give Steve David a big advantage over on the inside. J. Michael Kelly between boats, and he's going to take on a little salt water there as Shane goes by him on the outside. And this is the way we will set him up for the run around to the start. Steve David is going to have the inside in the Oh Boy Oberto, the red and green boat. Way out ahead of him, Jimmy Shane is going to swing out into a wide lane 3, and J. Michael Kelly will have plenty of room to come up between boats in the orange 37 Beacon Plumbing. They turn now to make the run down to start, accelerating. They're at about 150 miles per hour. They will be up at 210 or so when they hit the start line, and it is coming up right there. Jimmy Shane was the leader at the line, but Steve David has a big advantage. He's way over on the inside. He'll have a much shorter race course to run. J. Michael Kelly there between boats, dropping back a little. The leader's pulling away from him already. Steve David through turn 1. Jimmy Shane off to his right. He'll try to use the outside to keep his boat speed up and run with Steve David, but the veteran driver from Lighthouse Point, Florida will have a big advantage here. He has the Oberto on the inside, looking to add 100 points to that national high point lead that he has, currently only 63 points over Jimmy Shane. Up the backstretch, they'll go into turn 2 for the first time. That big yellow buoy there, the entrance pin. A big wall of water off the skid fin on the left side of the Oberto as they turn toward us, and there's Shane. Jimmy Shane made up some water on Steve David. He was behind the rooster tail. We couldn't see him, but now he has moved up within striking distance. He's over in lane 2, and we may have a boat race here. Jimmy Shane in the 5 Graham Trucking running in lane 2, and there you see the lead that David has as they go into turn 1 for the second time. Jimmy Shane swung a little bit wide there, may have lost a little bit of ground. Back with the 3rd place runner, that is J. Michael Kelly in the orange Beacon Plumbing. Just didn't have the boat speed to run with the leaders. Back aboard with Shane, and it looks like he has dropped back a little bit. Our onboard cameras are wide angle. They make the lead look a little bigger than it is for the boat up ahead, but Steve David does have almost a rooster tail now on Jimmy Shane. We are working in lap 2 of a 3-lap race. The final again will be 5 here on this 2.5-mile saltwater super speedway. Big wall of water off the left side, the skid fin of the Oberto. As Steve David comes through turn 2 for the second time, he'll come down to the start line. He'll be on his final lap. Saltwater, very efficient, good buoyancy for the hull, makes the propeller equally efficient, and we see the top speeds of the entire season right here on the Mission Bay Racecourse. Straightaway speeds over 210 miles per hour. Steve David has 3/4 of a lap to go now. As we take a look once again at J. Michael Kelly running 3rd here on Mission Bay in the 37 Beacon Plumbing. The leaders well out ahead of him. You can see they are through the turn already as Kelly is approaching turn 1. Meanwhile, the battle up front, Steve David maintaining his advantage over Jimmy Shane in the 5 Graham Trucking. He has a quarter of a lap to go now. He'll go into turn 2 for the final time. Shane will continue to pursue in the 5 Graham Trucking. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to catch Steve David. And Steve David is going to come down to the start-finish line, get the checkered flag, and add 100 points to his national high point lead over Jimmy Shane in the 5 Graham Trucking, who will finish second.
Tommy Thompson and the rest of the drivers ready themselves for Heat 3A next.
H1 Unlimited Hydroplane Racing from San Diego on the CBS Sports Network is brought to you by Peters & May Global Boat Transport, the world's leading boat transport provider, and by Formula Boats. You always wanted the best. Formula Boats.
Welcome back to San Diego, California. After the second round of heats, Steve David has increased his lead over Jimmy Shane to 163 points. Will Steve David continue his perfect weekend in Heat 3A?
Got that race family. Don't forget your stay in San Diego.
Steve David with a big advantage, the top qualifier. Qualified at over 160 miles per hour, and now he has the Oberto in lane 1 here in Heat 3A. Jimmy Shane is not in this heat. He's in 3B, which means that neither Steve David nor Jimmy Shane can gain on the other if they both win their heats here in 3A and 3B. That means they would both go into the final with Steve David still holding on to that 163-point lead. That is a very, very small lead at this point of the season. The final event in the 2013 H1 Unlimited Tour and the National High Point Championship is going to come down to the final heat. Good look at Tom Thompson there in the 11 Peters & May. Racing for Scott and Shannon Rainey out of Edmonds, Washington. The sponsor, Peters & May, based in London, England. On the backstretch, coming by the Bill Munsey Memorial. Bill Munsey, the most famous driver in the history of unlimited hydroplane racing, a resident of the San Diego area. Steve David into turn 2. We sometimes refer to that as the SeaWorld turn. Off to the right of Tom Thompson, you can see that big tower right in the middle of SeaWorld, which is right next to the race course here on Mission Bay. On board now with Greg Hopp. Greg, a resident of Lake Stevens, Washington. North of Seattle, a veteran of many, many years in unlimited hydroplane racing. The boat currently leased by Jay LeCrone of Seattle. Normally it is based in Detroit. Once again, our leader, Steve David, with a nice lead over the boats running in second and third place. Just needs to keep it on the water here for a couple more laps, and he will score those 400 points. He'll easily make the final heat. He'll have a chance to defend his Bayfair championship, and a win in that heat would also secure the 2013 Series National High Point Championship. He has won 6 of them for this team. He would love to make this number 7. Tom Thompson in his second year driving for Scott and Shannon Rainey in that bright chartreuse and blue 11 Peters & May. Tom based in Cambridge, Maryland. Scott and Shannon Rainey have their shop in Edmonds, just north of Seattle. Steve David coming through turn 2 one more time in the red and green Oh Boy Oberto, driving for the 13,000 owners of this boat. The residents of Madison, Indiana, all have a share of the ownership of the Oh Boy Oberto. Steve David has 2 wins in 2013. He won in May on Folsom Lake in Sacramento, and then in July up in the Tri-Cities area of the state of Washington. On board with Greg Hopp, driving without gloves, which is fairly rare in modern motorsports, especially in an unlimited hydroplane where there's a lot of wear and tear on your hands trying to keep the boat under control. Steve David had a nice lead in national high points until Jimmy Shane won the races in Seattle in early August and then in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho a couple of weeks later. Now they come to San Diego with a 2013 Series High Point chase very, very close. Now we're on board with our leader, Steve David. He's going to swing through the SeaWorld turn for the final time, head it down towards start-finish. It looks like Tom Thompson is going to be able to hold off Greg Hopp. He will finish second in the 11 Peters & May. Hopp will be third. Steve David takes the checkered flag in the Oh Boy Oberto.
Jimmy Shane and Kip Brown are on the water for a race Shane must win to still be a contender for the national championship. H1 continues next. Bayfair at Mission Bay, San Diego has become the battleground for the H1 National Championship. Steve Montgomery caught up with Steve David after Heat 2A.
You can run second now in the final and win the championship. You realize that?
Yeah, we can, but we've never been a boat that was satisfied with, well, I shouldn't say never. For the last 13 years, we've not been satisfied with second place.
Scoring up for the start of Heat 3B, that is Mike Webster on the outside in the red and blue 22 Big 5 Sporting Goods, driving for the family race team out of Reading, Pennsylvania. Nobody challenged Jimmy Shane for the inside. He's going to have the Graham Trucking in lane 1. Looking back from the wide-angle lens aboard the Graham Trucking, it looks like it's a long ways back to Kip Brown. He's in lane 2 in the Spirit of Qatar. Webster on the outside. Actually, when they come out of this first turn, you will see they are closer than it appeared in that shot. Jimmy Shane made a good start, a conservative start. He was well off the line. No reason to push it. He's into turn 1 now, and as he swings onto the backstretch, we see him there going through turn 1. It's a big sweeper here on this 2.5-mile race course. And there is Kip Brown in the white Spirit of Qatar, and Mike Webster comes with him through turn 1. Now Shane is the leader onto the backstretch. Heat 3B, the last opportunity to score points toward that final heat. All three of these drivers, if they finish like this, first, second, and third, would make the final. And Jimmy Shane would stay just 163 points behind Steve David. In the final heat, he would have to win that heat. Steve David would have to finish third or lower in order for Shane to take away that 2013 National High Point Championship. But back to the matters at hand. Heat 3B, it is Shane out ahead of Kip Brown in the 95 Spirit of Qatar, flying the colors of the country of Qatar. That is the way their flag looks. It is white with the 7 maroon points. The maroon and white race boat has had a good season. Kip Brown won the Gold Cup in Detroit in July. Jimmy Shane coming by the pit area one more time. He'll swing by SeaWorld and come on to the front straightaway and come down to finish another lap. Kip Brown still staying in contact, as you can see, in the 95 Spirit of Qatar. No real reason for either of these drivers to run real hard, but Shane airing it out there a little bit. He got the Graham Trucking up over 200 miles per hour. It got a little bit loose on him, and Brown is right there. That Spirit of Qatar running very well for him, and Mike Webster still in contact with the leaders as well in that 22 Big 5 Sporting Goods, the sponsor on board here for Bayfair at San Diego. Boats are onto the front straightaway one more time. Jimmy Shane became a brand new daddy recently. He'll be married next month in Chelan, Washington. He will make the move from Havre de Grace, Maryland to Seattle to start a new life with a brand new family. It's been a big, big year for this young man. He has been a sensation on the unlimited hydroplane circuit since becoming a full-time driver for the very first time just last season. Jimmy Shane now working the final laps of Heat 3B, maintaining a lead over Kip Brown, who continues to hang with him in the 95 Spirit of Qatar. Up ahead, Jimmy Shane off the final corner, just 1,500 feet to go. A few more seconds and it'll be mission accomplished. He will take the checkered flag and a nice win, an easy win here in Heat 3B, and pick up those 400 very, very valuable points for the victory.
All three sets of heats have been run going into the final race of the season and the final race of his career. Veteran driver Steve David in the #1 Oh Boy Oberto, the team he's raced with for 13 years, still has the lead on Jimmy Shane. The final is up next.
H1 Unlimited Hydroplane Racing from San Diego on the CBS Sports Network is brought to you by Peters & May Global Boat Transport, the world's leading boat transport provider, and by Formula Boats. You always wanted the best. Formula Boats.
Jimmy Shane, the young driver out of Maryland, the Graham Trucking Team, and the rest of the Unlimited fleet ready for the final race of the 2013 season. As they embark for the last time, we head into the Bayfair Final.
Kip Brown wins the battle for the inside. He'll have lane 1. In between boats, Jimmy Shane is in lane 2. Steve David out in 3, but Steve is moving over in front of Shane and Brown, and Shane went through his rooster tail. He got high in the air in the 5 Graham Trucking. He is right side up, appears to be underway. That could have been bad as the 5 Graham Trucking nearly blew over. Steve David now has the inside in the 1 Oh Boy Oberto. Shane has moved out there. You see him in lane 2. We're on board with Kip Brown, who fell back a little bit in the 95 Spirit of Qatar. Through turn 2 now, they'll set up for the run down to the start line, on board with Tom Thompson in the 11 Peters and May. And that's the view he has. Boats to his left, boats to the right. Jimmy Shane appears to be okay. He's moving up right beside Steve David for the run down to the start line. They are counting down. The white boy coming up is the start. Steve will move out a little bit ahead now. He accelerates. He had to slow down going into the turn. Here's the start. 1 mark. Oh, it was close. It was a very close start. The officials will have to review the video and make sure everybody was legal. Steve David has the inside. He has lane 1 into the first turn. Shane right beside him in the Graham Trucking appears to be running okay. He undoubtedly took on a gulp of salt water there before the start. But it's Steve David now, Shane right beside him as they come off the first turn, and Kip Brown comes with them. Swinging wide, that's Mike Webster in the blue and red 22. Big 5 Sporting Goods. Greg Hopp swinging even wider in the yellow and green 14 Mr. Julio. Back with the leaders now. They have to go 5 laps. This is going to be a long, great boat race. Jimmy Shane is going to use the outside and boat speed to try to get around Steve David. He'll have the advantage over on the inside. On board with Kip Brown in the 95 Spirit of Qatar. The Gold Cup winner, currently running 3rd on the water here in lap 1 of the final heat. Steve David onto the front straightaway. He'll cross start finish at the end of lap 1 of 5. 4 laps to go for our leader in series high points. On his way to the Bayfair Championship, we will see. Jimmy Shane giving chase, the youngster out of the state of Maryland, a winner the last 2 times out at Seattle Seafair, the hometown of his sponsor Rob Graham Trucking, and then Jimmy went on to win our first race in 45 years on Lake Coeur d'Alene up in northern Idaho. Swinging onto the backstretch one more time, and you see the lead that Steve David has over Jimmy Shane. Kip Brown coming through in 3rd place in the white boat out in lane 3. In the background, that appears to be Mike Webster in the 22 Big 5 Sporting Goods, currently running 4th on the water. Jimmy Shane has a fast race boat. It gets him up that straightaway over 200 miles per hour, but he hasn't been able to make up any ground on the leader, Steve David. The Oh Boy Oberto, racing for everybody who's a resident of Madison, Indiana. This is a community-owned boat, and there you see the lead that Steve David has. Jimmy Shane looks like he's dropped back just a little bit. He's actually lost some ground on the leader as they go down the front straightaway to complete another lap. A beautiful, perfect boat ride for the Oh Boy Oberto pilot. Steve David down into turn 1. That yellow streak that went by in the foreground was Tom Thompson in the 11 Peters and May, currently running 5th here in the final heat. Steve David through turn 1. You can't see Jimmy Shane. He's outside that rooster tail. You'll see him as they turn toward us. Steve David swinging a little bit wide, and there is Shane now. He's on the outside, running a longer race course than Steve David, who is off to his left, and here they come up that long back chute one more time. These drivers really hang out these big unlimited hydroplanes. 3-ton race boats riding on a cushion of air, very, very light on the water at incredibly high speed. Steve David coming by the pit area one more time. He'll make the SeaWorld turn. Jimmy Shane doing everything he can to get the Graham Trucking up next to Steve David in the Oberto. He goes to the inside. Steve David swung wide, left a lane inside, and Jimmy Shane took it. Now we're back with the 3rd place runner. That's Kip Brown in the 95 Spirit of Qatar. The race for 1st and 2nd is up ahead of him so far. Steve David crosses the line, finishing another lap. More than half of the race completed now. He has led from wire to wire, but Jimmy Shane has been right there, challenging at his hip, right beside his rooster tail all the way. away any kind of a bobble by the veteran driver out of Lighthouse Point, Florida. And Shane will be there to take over the lead. Coming out of turn 2 onto the front straightaway, and Shane is going to go to the inside again. Hasn't been enough of an advantage for him to catch Steve David so far, but he'll give it a try in there. Steve David running a big race course. Tom Thompson in the 11, Peters and May has moved up into 4th place as the 22, Mike Webster's Big 5 Sporting Goods, has dropped out of the race. He is dead in the water. Steve David continues to lead. He has opened up some water on Jimmy Shane. The 2nd place runner has fallen back a little bit. Well, he's just at the back of the rooster tail, still within striking distance, and now he appears to be backing out of it a bit. Jimmy Shane may have given up the chase and decided to save the equipment. Steve David now out ahead all alone. And now we find out why Jimmy Shane backed out of it a little. He received word, as we did. After the review of the start, the officials have determined that Steve David and the old boy Oberto got to the line too soon. Steve David jumped the gun, and the old boy Oberto, that's going to drop him from 1st place all the way back to 5th or 6th, and it will have huge ramifications. Tom Thompson and the Peters and May will move up onto the podium. It will affect the Bayfair Championship. It puts Jimmy Shane in 1st place, and it drops Steve David out of the National High Point lead. We have tremendous developments here. As Steve David comes down to start-finish, he will not get the checkered flag. He got a white flag, and Jimmy Shane is going to get the checkers. We believe that'll move Kip Brown up into 2nd place, and Rich Hollenberg will have to sort out the official order of finish after some incredible developments here in the final heat of the San Diego Bayfair.
After deliberation from the officials, Kip Brown was cited with a fuel flow violation, giving Tommy Thompson in the number 11 Peters and May 2nd and Greg Hopp 3rd place in the Bill Muncie Cup.
Jimmy Shane, the 2013 San Diego Bayfair champion. More important, perhaps, the 2013 National High Point champion. How do you feel?
This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I knew we were both close on the start there. Steve crossed the start line about a half boat length in front of me, and I guess that was the difference. Even after that, coming down for the getting our lanes, the boat was standing up on end. Steve had nowhere near 5 boat lengths when he came over into lane 1, and I did everything I could just try to keep it on the water. And at that point, once it came back down, I was like, all right, now I just got to get a good start, and I tried to push Steve up there a little bit. And hey, you know what? Things work out sometimes.
So another adrenaline-pumping season of the world's fastest race boats has come to a close. A new national champion has been crowned, and we say farewell to a man who has been and will continue to be a cheerleader for this sport. For Steve Montgomery and our entire crew, I'm Rich Hollenberg. For scores, highlights, features, and more, go to cbssports.com. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports Network, the 24-hour home of CBS Sports.